Hello and welcome to Calder Park Recreation Reserve. It is the semi-final of the Nike FC Cup and we will have Calder United take on South Melbourne to see who will book their spot in the final of this cup competition. These sides are no stranger to each other in cup competitions. In fact, they have faced each other in the final of the cup of the past 2 years. And again in 2019, before that, Calder have come out the victors all 3 times, winning 4-1, 3-0 and 3-0 over the last 2 years. It will be an absolute fight between these two teams, two really well-respected clubs here in Victoria and in the NPLW as well. You can see both their teams just making their way to the centre of the pitch, and I'll quickly run through the starting lineups of both teams. In goalkeeper for Calder, number 21, Natalie Pichak. Number 2, Alexis Mitchell. Number 3, Maya Hayson. 8, Isabella Seawoods. 9, their captain, Ava Grober. 10, Raquel Doralis. 12, Alyssa Smith. 14, Natasha Dakic. 16, Kaywa Hyder. 20, Montana Matthews. 22, Alana Stern. And for South Melbourne, they will have Miranda Templeton in goals, and then they will have Danielle Wise, number 4, 5, Sophie Papasanis, 8, Akisha Sandhu, 10, Georgia Klendas, 11, Yana Lawson, 14, Misha Westland, 17, Dragana Klajic, 18, Letitia McKenna, 20, Brianne Lee, 24, Leah Varley, and 25, Franny Amano. The two captains now just in the middle with our referee as well, Mark Tito. And it is going to be an absolutely exciting game here tonight. All is on the line between these teams. It is do or die. There will be no draws. There will definitely be a victor at the end of this game. My name is Georgia Radjic. I have the absolute pleasure of being joined by another legend of the game, Melissa Bubs Barbieri. Bubs, how do you feel about this game? What do we have to expect tonight?
Yeah, it's a really exciting matchup for a semi-final. I really feel like we're losing out. You want these two teams to be in the grand final once again, to play it out for the Nike Cup, the big silverware at the end of the day. But no doubt Calder Park is the home of Calder at the moment, and no doubt their fans are going to take them right through the 90 minutes and beyond if needed. This one can also go to 120 and penalties, so let's hope not for that, because it's freezing out here. We're in the middle of the flight path on the way to Tullamarine. The aeroplane's sky above, so if our microphones do sound a little bit quaky at one point or another, it's because we're highly exposed on some scaffolding in the middle of the ground. But no, I'm really looking forward to this one, Georgia. Hopefully the sides can come out. I mean, South Melbourne had a little bit of a disappointing result against Box Hill on the weekend, 1-1. Calder themselves coming off a loss as well. So it's that's NPL land, though. This is Nike FC Cup, and everyone rises to the occasion for these games.
Absolutely. 6 points between these teams in the league, but all is even and square here in the semi-final of the Nike FC Cup. Calder will get us started, kicking to the right of your screen if you're watching today. It is on npl.tv and on Facebook Live. And Mitchell gets us started. Sewards immediately straight to the left of screen. Herder through ball, but unable to find her captain in Grober, and pushed out for an early throw-in now for Calder. We saw South Melbourne, like you said, Bubs, 93rd minute winner, but we also saw so many goals in the game that Calder played in the weekend against Burundara. Forced to go back, trying again to find that through ball. And Varley just using her body to guard it, to direct it out of play. South Melbourne with the first goal kick of the game. Sandhu pushing up on the left. Iamano calling for it, but dispatched by Hayson. Reid chooses to go back to Templeton. Bit of back and forth pressure placed by Hyder. Sandu now, still Hyder giving chase, paying close attention to the South Melbourne captain.
South Melbourne going to try and get the nerves out early. Varley on target with her first ball of the game. I feel like last game against Box Hill, they were trying to force a lot of things. They're trying to learn how each other play, maybe a little bit still trying to get the range of passes in. But I think they'll try and hold possession a little better tonight.
Over the top to Yamano. McKenna tries to whip it across. Headed out by Grober. Now the chase is on between herself and Sophie Papatsanis, but South Melbourne win the throw-in. Westland looked to be the target, but again, strong defending from Calder. And Wise running onto the ball. Stern tumbles over. And now Calder on the break. Hyder directly into the path of Sandu. And again, this battle between Kiwa Hyder and Anika Sandu, that is where my money is on tonight for what will be a really interesting tussle between two very important players to their side. Mitchell over the top. Hyder crossing in. Intended target was Doralis, but Templeman able just to very easily pick that ball up.
Calder always seem to set up nicely for their press. They're very compact. They like to force teams into the wide areas, and they set sort of an ambush. So they'll be goading South Melbourne into playing a small pass that they'll just try and nip in front of.
Iamano now running onto the ball. Stern trying to have a bit of a conversation with her keeper there to block the run of Iamano. No Julia Sato for this Calder lineup tonight.
No, she hasn't been playing for a few weeks now, Julia Sato. Maya Hayson has been doing great in her stead at the right back position. She's usually a centre back, Maya Hayson, so, formerly of Alamein. She's done well to cement her spot there in Julia Sato's absence.
And Grober again really coming in the right time to find the ball, and ball going back and forth, changing possession quite rapidly between the two sides. Both teams desperate to make an early mark. Iamano now pushing on, and Hyder winning.
Iamano looking really ginger on her ankle. She had to go off against Bayside a couple of weeks ago, so she also was contesting her spot with Christensen, who also went off last week mid-game. So she doesn't look at all comfortable. We'll have to keep an eye on that.
Hyder again, and passes directly to Iamano. And Smith saying she had no part in the tumble that came from Klajic. Calder now moving with some speed. Through ball into Grober, but Varley able to just clear it out of harm's danger. Hyder immediately wins ball back for Calder. Hyson pushing up. Chooses to cross in. And Templeman there to collect the ball. Reid back to Templeman. South Melbourne choosing to show some patience now. Yamano back to Reid. Again, that press from Calder. They are not letting the ball travel far down the pitch at all. Forced back to Templeman. Reid can see Mitchell just trying to hold on to that chase. Matthews keeps it in, but lands directly at the feet of Westland. Turn in the air against Wise. And Matthews Back to Dakic. Ball goes a little bit further than I think she anticipated and cleared by Pitchak.
Yeah, South Melbourne really composed under that Calder pressure. Their ability to play out of that dangerous press by Calder just means that Calder are now exposed in the back line. Unfortunately, they couldn't get into that front third with any vigour, but it might yield some fruit for them down the track.
McKenna throws through to Klajic, and it will be the first corner of the game going to South Melbourne.
Calder playing with danger there, allowing McKenna to turn at the top of the box. She certainly had range to shoot from that angle, but she opted to go to Klajic, who was getting inside the 18 in possible crossing area. Got to keep those balls to McKenna to a minimum.
McKenna's stunning solo effort was the difference in that last cup game they had against Preston. South Melbourne now with the corner. Low ball. Cleared from Calder, but not too far at all. So South Melbourne, Papatana's keen to be speedy with the throw-in.
Yeah, South Melbourne, it looked like a set piece there where they drove the ball in. McKenna was looking for the run of Reid at the front post, but Reid had to take a touch. Her body position couldn't get the shot off, which just meant Calder were able to get in with the timely tackle.
South Melbourne choosing to go back to Varley, again displaying that patience early on. Reid back to Varley. Mitchell really pressing high up, and now the calls from Calder to move down the pitch as quite a few passes now are being undertaken by the two centre backs and their keeper. Varley directly through the centre to Lawson, and you can see both players grabbing at each other's shirts. Iamano unintentionally taken out by McKenna. It will be a free kick to South Melbourne. McKenna spots the run of Klajic. Keeps a hold of the ball. Tries to go low, but there's no one in the centre of running into the box. Cern now to Sandu. And Varley, that is experience in defence, knowing exactly where to position her body. Iamano goes back to Reid. And Varley spots Jana Lawson almost all by herself, and fast-paced work by Hyson to track back to stop Lawson running onto goal. Calder win back possession. Hyder to Matthews. Misha Westland really following that run, pushes it out for a throw-in.
Calder trying to expose South Melbourne in that transition moment. They'll need to try and get the ball forward in less passes to try and expose the fact that South Melbourne are playing such a high line in terms of playing up, trying to play possession in their half. So once Calder win that ball, they'll need to attack with some aggression to really expose the players getting forward, especially a Sandu and a Papatanis, who like to get really high in that possession for South Melbourne. I'd love to see Grober get on the ball a little bit wider, her pace. You know, she tried to make a run there, but it was really close to Reid at the time. It was cut out by Varley, but she was certainly on, and the pace of her can get the better of South Melbourne.
She is their top scorer in the NPLW this season. 5 goals to her name. She hasn't scored in their cup run just yet. As we hear probably the 7 o'clock Sydney flight making its way over the top of us to land at Tullamarine. Yes. Eyes back on the play here is Reid to Sandu. Immediately tapped on to Lawson. Lawson, and again Hyson, very impressive in the role that she's been performing for Calder. Lawson to take the throw. Sandu immediately returns the ball. Crossed in. McKenna Tiamano. South Melbourne choosing to go back. Varley having to, a bit under pressure, pushes the ball forward. And it will be a Calder throw. What started with some really high intense pressure from Calder has now seen South Melbourne have the lion's share of possession.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, when they've got the possession up that high, the likes of Doralis, Grober, Mitchell and Hayter have to come back and try and help their team defend. So in actual fact, the ability of South Melbourne to keep possession in their front third really stifles the attack for Calder. So it's a win-win situation for South Melbourne. If they're not giving away or when they're not getting goal kicks, you know, it's really important for them to keep possession higher up the field.
Doralis threads it through for Hayter. Crosses in and Grober was there, but behind Sandu. Kleitsch on the chase for the ball. Passes back, but now the pressure is mounting with Calder players streaming through. Matthews. You can hear the shouts on the pitch from the commentary scaffolding. These players are really vocal here tonight. Doralis to Hyson. Tempted back heel. And Sewards. Mitchell. And that run there from Grober. And some strong defending there from the South Melbourne defenders to try and just make sure they were in between Grober and the ball from what would have been a great display of how fast she is as a player. Varley taking her time before choosing to ultimately go back to Reid. Sandu pushing forward. Wise, but directly into Hyson. And now here comes Doralis. Reid just taps it onto Templeman. And experienced defenders of South Melbourne, again and again, they just know when to put themselves between the ball and their opposition player. And just a bit too much on that ball to Lawson.
It's really critical of the Calder press that they need to try and press the ball back to Templeman. I think the release valve for the press is when the ball goes back to the keeper, but she's sitting so high that the distance between the centre back and the keeper is a very short one. So if Calder actually goad the ball back to the keeper and then press that, they might get some fruit.
Lawson back to Sandu. Over top and Wise versus Cern. Quite the battle there for the ball. Grober. And then directly into the middle where two South Melbourne players were, and they win back possession. Varley again, but just...
That's the time that they need to really expose South Melbourne. Varley stepped out of the line, tried to get possession in their half. She loses it, and there's a big gaping hole in the back line there. They need to be able to get the ball to Doralis in at her feet rather than trying to play in front of her.
Hyson chests it in the middle, but ball bounce going quite between players airily. Cern almost clicked at the bottom of her feet. Grober back to Cern. Smith now looking to move the ball onto that far side flank. And the foot race between Papatsanis and Hayter. And pushes it into Papatsanis. So Calder win their first corner of the match.
Dangerous situation here for South Melbourne. Calder, very good on set pieces. Delivery by Sewards, always pinpoint in the box. You've got to look out for Doralis. Dakic and Maya Hasten all have the height in there.
Sewards with the corner, high in the box. Stern rises and Hyder tried to kick it from the ball met the ground, and attempt there from Grover from some distance, but goes a fair bit wide, and Templeman will have a goal kick.
Yeah, South Melbourne escape danger there. Hayder having the ball in the box there. She's usually pinpoint accurate with an unleashing of a shot, but she's just taken a touch that got it under her feet a little bit. Can't leave Hayder unmarked in the box.
Absolutely not. In that last cup game against Preston, she assisted a couple and scored the last goal in that 5-2 win they had right here in Killer Park. Doralis was looking for Grover, but just a bit too much on that ball. Calder will retain possession with the throw, though. Smith booting it long. And it'll be a free kick against Doralis.
Good battle by Doralis and Reed in that instance. Referee quick to call it though as Doralis grabbed her by the hips, dragged her back. Reed made sure the referee knew about it though.
It's always important that the referee sees everything from a player's perspective, I guess. And directly into the bench. Pavatsanis really taking her time with the throw. Chooses to go long, but Dakic is the player directly back to Klajic. And Cern, high ball. And Lawson now on to Wise, and Wise! Stunning save there by Pitchock. Iamano still had possession. Grover coming in to sweep the ball away, but that was a stunning first effort there from South Melbourne for the first real dangerous attack of this game.
Some great football there. Lawson with the slight ball through, then Wise with the firing of the shot, and Pitchock just absolutely blinder of a save to get down low to her right. Wise would have thought that was in the back of the net. Well done to the Calder keeper.
She hasn't scored yet in this competition. She's currently the second highest scorer in NPLW. Danielle Wise, of course, won the Golden Boot last year with Heidelberg, but that would have been a great way to open the scoring in this game. Still 0-0. There will be a victor at the end of this game, and there will be one of these two teams facing off in the Nike FC Cup final at the end of this. Lawson and Iamano, they've switched sides again. Saw Iamano start the game on the near camera side, but South Melbourne streaming forward. McKenna, and it just flashes just wide, and South Melbourne are now on the attack. In the past couple of minutes, we've seen two very strong attacks from this team. They are so hungry to open the scoring, and Calder look under pressure.
Yeah, they do. They've gone trying to call for an offside there. They held a good line, but Klajic was just onside. Assistant referee kept her flag down, and then the ball in from Klajic into McKenna. Just had it glance past that post.
Sewards just gets a bit of the boot onto it. Now Hyson, this near side flank, it's what Calder love to use. We've seen it so many times in games, and unable to get that through ball to be pulled off. And McKenna has possession now for South Melbourne. Varley spots Westland by herself, but shouts for a handball, but play continues, and that beautiful ball through to Grover. goes directly into Doralis, but McKenna is able to clear it away.
Grover actually had time and space. She'd beaten Reed. If she had just cut herself into the box and got into that 18-yard box, she would have had to drag Varley out, and then she could have slotted it into Mitchell or Hayter in the deeper part of that 18-yard box. Just a little bit too hasty in trying to get the ball to Doralis meant that she couldn't move the pieces out of the way before getting a strike on goal.
Calder still have possession with the throw. Grover pokes it into the centre, but Varley again. Smith goes down to her knees to get a foot to that ball. Grover, and through the legs of Doralis, directly into Reed. Clyach to McKenna. And now South Melbourne choosing to exercise some patience, switching the ball. Papatsanis now making a bit of a run, taps it on. Iomano has so much time and space in front of her. Chooses to crush back to Wise, and she skies it over the top there. They'll be ruining a missed opportunity there, South Melbourne.
Yeah, I'd wonder if that was onside. From this angle, certainly looks a little offside to me, but I don't have the flag, and it certainly stayed down that entire time. So, once again, South Melbourne not capitalising on that Calder line. They need to finish those ones soon. Put this game to bed nice and early. The longer it goes on, the longer Calder stays in the match, the more chances they have of taking that lead. And then from there, it's very difficult for South Melbourne to come back from, especially away from home.
And of course, both these sides had time after their last cup games. They both had the bye conveniently. This time they don't. Imano just playing a little bit of pressure there. South Melbourne still look to move forward, but they both have games on the weekend and they both have games this weekend. So
3 in a week is not good for the legs.
We've had plenty of conversations up in the commentary scaffolding tonight already about the amount of movement required for us tonight. So the strength and conditioning and the mobility of these players will have to be next level, especially at this point in the season. We see, again, look like Grover was the intended target, but Reed, it's just the first of the ball. Calder moving their way down the pitch. But again, South Melbourne had the best opportunity so far in this game, but Calder still are pushing forward, threatening forward. Doralis, like Sewards was the target, but lands at Clyach. Lawson lays it off for Westland, and Smith just wins the ball back, and Papatsana's now pushing it forward. So many fast possession changes between these two sides.
Those transition moments that we keep talking about. I think the team that does it the best will score.
Iomano now on the run. Slows down play, tries to work through Hyson, but Cern is there. Sandu now stopping the play, and it will.
Well-timed tackle there by Akisha Sandu on Cerne, who was actually helping out Hyson in that instance.
South Melbourne doing so well to keep the ball as close to their goal as possible. McKenna immediately back to Sandu. Over the top, and Lawson rises. The ball just bouncing in the box. Cern looking to clear it out of danger directly into Reed. Now South Melbourne choosing to play the ball around a bit with patience. They are the ones with control in this game at the moment. Papatsana to Reed. Curling effort there from Sandu, but Smith now trying to push up to Doralis in the centre. Lays it off on the flank for Hyder. Hyder still pressing forward. Has both Westland and Papatsanis on her, and it will be a goal kick to South Melbourne.
South Melbourne know how dangerous Hayder is, and she will have no time and space if South Melbourne have that way in that 18-yard box. She did try and play it off the two South Melbourne players, but to no avail, could convince the referee.
South Melbourne again, just trying to move it out of the defence, but Mitchell putting a lot of pressure on Reid there, and Calder will win the throw-in.
That'll be a well-executed press by Calder in that instance. As soon as Reid turns away, Calder no to press.
Hasten to Mitchell. And again, just slowly inching their way down the sideline.
You can see Mitchell wanting the ball a lot quicker from Hyson. She's there in time and space. She wanted it happening a little bit quicker, but Hyson was being directed by the referee, so didn't get it to her in time before South Melbourne players came around her.
McKenna, stunning hit there to find Lawson in the centre. But Pitchock just pushes it out. So great ball there from McKenna.
Yeah. Distribution by McKenna is exquisite at the best of times. That one was really lovely. She can hit the ball both left and right foot and find her mark.
And Grover by herself, but bit of a miss kick there from Mitchell to not meet the intended target at all, but Lawson running onto it.
So once again, one of those instances where Grover has an acre in front of her and they're panicking in terms of trying to get the ball so quickly to her that they forget about the accuracy.
And again, that fast counter-attack when they're trying to move in transition, just unable to meet their targets, the lack of accuracy, as you just said there, Bubs. Two very similar passages of play, I guess, for Calder. And now the press from Calder on South Melbourne. They're making it very hard for them to move down the pitch. Templeman to Varley. And Mitchell's first touch just eludes her, and Papatsanis was on it. Little flick on from Westland. Wise looked to be the target, but Dakic. And a bit of a push in the back there from Wise. Referee had no other option but to award the free kick to Calder there.
Yeah, a bit of hustle and bustle from Wise. Just clipped Dakic's ankles. But, you know, I wonder, it's been a tough transition for Calder. You know, a lot of their players went and played for Western United, then, you know, a lot of them opting to have holidays in between the seasons. So I've been really impressed with Mitchell, Sewards and Smith in the centre of the park there. It's pretty big shoes to fill with the Taranto twins out and having a well-earned rest over this break. It's great to see that, you know, Doralis, Dakic, Alana Stern came back into the squad to get minutes in between seasons. So it's great to see this team still working together, trying to get everything back onto the same page.
But of course, they have been doing remarkable since they have been able to get their A-League women's players back, but also some A-League women players in the South Melbourne side. Miranda Templeman, of course, was with Victory last season, and Iamano, the Western United, was with Western United, but now facing against a lot of her former teammates at Calder. Iamano now with the ball. Dakic pushing forward. Try to spot the run of Doralis, but Papatsanis and Varley really good to cut off that lead from Doralis.
See, that's the one I would press. That's the one I would press. The one back to Templeman that was out of her reach. Grover could have kept going, and Doralis was in there ready to pounce as well. Just Calder just opting out of the press at the wrong moment.
And now Lawson streaming forward. Matthews goes down. Lawson keeps moving. Smith just intercepts the pass, and Calder now on, and ball going a little bit back behind Hyder. Slows down the run of play. Smith over the top now to Doralis. Varley, instead of choosing to cut inside, well, she ends up cutting inside and going to the keeper after all that. But again, we see this is where Calder have taken the step back from the press in this instance. Much slower movement from South Melbourne. Westland back to Templeman. McKenna being paid close attention from Sewards. Again, she makes her way move on to Reid as well. And
I think the problem is for Calder is that they've actually got 5 in the back line marking not even 4. So when they're pushing players on, they're asking their forward players to track and to pressure, but they have to jump players. They have to go from their player to the next player, and the other players behind them aren't stepping on. So it's making it hard for them to get that recovery run correct. They just can't apply the pressure that they want.
Wise. And now Yana Lawson running, but Matthews looks to be a bit ginger on her ankle after that ball. Lawson keen to get moving, long throw into the box, and Wise does eventually get ahead to it, but it is just booted out by Hyacinth. But Lawson is still there from the throw-in. South Melbourne really pressing up all their players deep in their own half at this point.
South Melbourne with the majority of the pressure or the possession, in their front third, and now they haven't capitalised on that goal just yet, but I feel like it's coming. They can smell blood in the water with Calder, especially in that 18-yard box.
Doralis back to Hyder. And Dakic looking to switch. Grober more or less by herself, but ball going over the top. Is that another case of missed target, of inaccuracy, or is that just waiting too long for that ball to Grober?
Yeah, they're a bit stressed on the ball. Like, if they can see the pass that they want to make, but they're overhitting it. They're trying to hit the longer pass rather than the shorter pass. And, South Melbourne are goading them into playing those smaller passes in there so they can pounce on it. And so that pressure that they're getting on the ball when they're trying to play the pass, see what I said? That pressure on the keeper will yield some opportunities for Calder. But, yeah, in terms of Calder trying to force the passing, it's done under pressure. So great job by South Melbourne to force them, but they just need a little bit more composure.
Is that also a case of a bit too much respect as well? Do you think it's also being paid, or is it just more the high-pressured environment?
It's respect, it's nerves, it's a semi-final. It's not going to be pretty football. South Melbourne have just had a 20-minute poor performance that lost them a couple of points against Box Hill. So they've learned from their mistakes. There's so many reasons why these things happen.
And foul given against Varley there. So Mitchell almost was running into right along the line with no one really in front of her. So this is a good opportunity now for Calder to make me potentially move forward with some speed. But they choose to go back instead, and just a couple passes between Dakic and Stern, and immediately bounces off the foot of Lawson. So Matthews. Papasanis wins the duel against Hyder. And foul against Calder. Just under 10 minutes of regular time to go in this half. Neither team will be wanting to go into the halftime break. 0-0. Hyder telling her players to move forward. And that ball to Grover. That was what Calder had been looking for this entire time. Grover still streaming forward. And Sandu doing a good job there to win the goal kick for her team. But that was what Calder had been looking for all evening.
Yeah, I think the touch from Grover just took her away from goal. Once she beats her defender, she wants to cut in on goal. And the ball from Hyder was absolutely beautiful. It was well timed, well weighted. Just outside the defender. Just needed Grover's touch to be inside, get in front of the defender, and then the defender either has to foul you, but certainly can't get the ball off you.
She certainly has been one of my favourite players this season, Hyder. Really excited by what she does in this competition. So, we've spoken a little bit about what that 5-2 win against Heidelberg, sorry, not Preston. I think I said Preston before. Calder in the quarterfinals of this cup. Very instrumental to some of the really exciting creative passages of play we saw from Calder in that game. And now South Melbourne moving forward again. Race between two Western United teammates in Iomano and Cern, and Lawson applying that pressure, and the ball's going back to the keeper, and Klajic now looking for Lawson. Weiss running into the box in an angle and still crossing an ability. Opportunity lost for South Melbourne.
Matthews did well there just to cut in front of Wise just as she's about to strike the ball. But Jana Lawson, form of old, a few seasons ago, she would be getting in behind defences, absolutely dominating in those wing and wide areas. Now you can see her. She's starting to take advantage of the fact that Calder are being caught square. Hyson certainly doesn't match her for pace. So it's up to South Melbourne to put one of these chances away before the half.
Westland wins the ball for South Melbourne. And Wise. Initial kick goes into a Calder player. Chooses to go back to Papatsanis. Reed was screaming for the ball more or less by herself. Grover, she has time and space in front of her. Hits the back foot of Mitchell in the end, and South Melbourne win back ball. Klajic goes for low ball, and Dakic just smart piece of defending there just to kind of stop and disrupt the flow of play. Calder now with the ball. Grover. You can hear the groans from the crowd after that one as well. It is back and forth stuff between these two teams. Lawson keeping the ball in play. Over the top, but to no one in particular in the end.
Yeah, I think great spell of possession there by Calder, especially the way that Grover was looking for the ball over the top, but then she checked into space to receive it at her feet. Then the run of Mitchell was absolutely brilliant as well, but then by the time Grover takes a couple of touches, she's a little bit too straight on for that forward pass. She needs to just a little bit of angle on it to get it away from the defender. Calder keeps trying to play the feet of their players rather than playing into space. So if there's no passage for them to go through the players, they got to try and go around them.
As we in this 40th minute mark of the first half, Yamano, opportunity for her to cross in the ball. And Wise is there, but great save there from Pichaka. Was that just an incorrect placement there from Wise?
That's half the job of being a goalkeeper, is standing in the right place at the right time when the striker hits the ball. And I do feel like if Wise hadn't have struck it so sweetly, it probably would have gone in the back of the net.
But impressive from the Calder goalkeeper in this first half. She has been really good in her positioning in this game to deny South Melbourne an early lead.
Yeah, I think if you're having a game like that and you're not letting anything in, even though it should be about 4-0 to South Melbourne by now, you're starting to think that maybe it's your night that you can come away with the win.
Hey.
On paper right now, South Melbourne should be leading and they should be taking the points, taking their place in the grand final.
This is football. You can have all the possession and all the shots in the world, but the scoreline might definitely reflect a different story, as is the way it works. But Wise now, Calder players all around her, but still able to find space. Westland just holding on to the ball, South Melbourne. They've just been able to put up with this Calder attack. McKenna was a target, but stand there just to guard the ball over the line. And again, South Melbourne just relentless, pushing forward, having these attempts toward goal, but not too many shots on target.
No, not too many shots on target or mostly directly at the keeper when they do make it. I mean, Pitchak made a really good save early on in the half, down low to her right. But otherwise, South Melbourne haven't really troubled the keeper in terms of finishing on goal.
And on the opposite end as well, I wouldn't say Calder have had many opportunities either. This battle has predominantly been in the middle of the park, more so than anywhere else. Neither team really able to break through the midfield or the defence as of yet, but both teams will be looking to get into the sheds at half-time, have that reset and discussion with the coaches, potentially about, what we have spoken to commentary, I could hope, especially from you, Bubs, more so than me. But the opportunity is there, and there's, so much left in the final minutes of this first half, and so much more to come in this game. Now, Seward's pushing forwards, and Grover was all by herself. Pushes it forward, goes towards goal, but again, Sandhu, she lets that first touch get a little bit ahead of her, and Sandhu just able to come into play.
That time she had the right idea. She was coming towards goal. Just that, Sandhu managed to get a foot in, but her ability to cut across Sandhu is what you want her to do a little bit more. Just that time, Sandhu got the better of her, but I'm sure the more she does it, she'll get one that comes in her favour. Great defending by Sandhu, though.
Papazanis to read. Something definitely we've come to expect in this season in PLW as well, outside of the cup, is just the reliability of this South Melbourne backline, and South Melbourne moving forward, but Dakic wins ball back for Calder. Smith back to Dakic there, looking quite content to play the ball around. Cern through the centre to Sewards, but was a bit off balance and hit it past Hyson, and Sandhu running to keep his play going. Lawson moves away from her defender. Ball over the top to McKenna. Flag stays down. McKenna through the centre. Wise is there. Off the back of the head of Wise. And Calder breathe a sigh of relief. Hyder now running through. Doralis. And right on her is Papazanis. But the intensity just down us from what we were seeing just seconds ago. South Melbourne now back in control, and now they're back in control. They are setting the tone and the pace. Choosing to opt for calmness, to play the ball around from the back a little bit. But that was a frantic 30 or so seconds we saw from both teams. Sewards to Hyder. Cuts it inside. Mitchell's first touch just goes a bit in front of her. Then opts to go back to Dakic, and it's a long ball over the top. A mistimed jump from Hyder, but she still wins possession. Goes long, but goes wide. And that is the end of the first half. It is the semi-final of the Nike FC Cup. It is currently Calder 0, South Melbourne 0. South Melbourne had the lion's share of possession and attack in that first half. Calder had some opportunities, but South Melbourne really the story of the first half. What do you say so far, Bubs?
Yeah, I think Pikachu is keeping the Calder team in the game with a couple of great saves, but I think Calder are trying to play on that counter attack, just not executing the pass and crisp enough or quick enough, and too many passes, too many touches, slows the ball down and gets South Melbourne back in line. So I think it's anybody's game in that second half. I think if you think about the football gods and how it plays into your hands, some of those goals would have gone in if it was South Melbourne's night. Maybe it's Calder's night. We don't know. That's why we've got another 45 minutes and beyond to play in this semi-final.
Of course, there will be extra time and penalties if this deadlock isn't broken at the end of the second half. We'll be right back after this halftime break. Make sure you tell your friends and family to tune in on the Football Victoria Facebook Live or on NPL TV. We'll be back for the second half very shortly. And we are back here for the second half of the Nike FC Cup semi-final. It is Calder United versus South Melbourne. It's currently a deadlock. 0-0 is the scoreline, but there will be a victor at the end of this match. Whether we are here for another 45, another 30 on top of that, or penalties, there will be a winner, and there will be one of these two teams progressing to the final. Babs, we had quite a tough first half of both games. South Melbourne were relenting in their pressure and their attack, but unable to break through. What do you think they would have talked about in the halftime break?
No, I think it would be capitalising on those. You finish those chances, the ones that you create, the ones that you fight for, and you get it into the 18-yard box, and then almost on goal. I mean, we talk about, Calder's keeper having a great game, but you've got to slot those chances away, just stick it in the corner, make the most of those chances.
Calder trying to start with some energy, and just Doralis just losing her footing, but they did start with playing that high press that we did come to expect in that first half and actually all season from Calder. Reid on the ball now. Finds her centre-back partner in Varley. And a bit of a miscommunication between Klajic and Papatsanis. Matthews with the throw. Heads back to Hyder. Hyder now with the ball. Chooses to cut back for a set and finds Sewards. And Mitchell. And it's Grover instead goes back to Hyson. And what looked to be really dangerous for a moment has resulted in Calder choosing to play it back and show some patience. Mitchell's first touch is getting a little bit in front of her tonight. Iamano now with the ball for South Melbourne. Goes back to Reid, who boots it long, and Wise doing well to hold up, use her body to hold up play against Hyson, and ball over top from South Melbourne to just a gaggle of Calder players, really. Matthews pushing forward. Wanted to thread it through to Doralis. Now Doralis with the ball. And inaccurate passing really was a huge story between us in that first half. And Calder still haven't been able to find that pinpoint accuracy.
So sometimes they need to carry the ball that little bit further in order to dislodge a South Melbourne defender, in order to get them to come out of position and engage the person on the ball so that you could slot in a little bit of pass into space. What they're doing is they get into the clear and then they try and play a really hard ball, really, it needs a fine margin of precision to get it on target. So what you want to see from Calder is just carry the ball when the time and space is there to allow it to happen, and then just be a little bit calmer on the pass through. Like Doralis was in a great position on that occasion, and then Smith picks it up and then almost tries to get rid of it too quickly because she can see Doralis.
Hyder. And just quickly on that, spoke a little bit about passing to the feet. Again, is that the case now, that they're passing too much to the feet of the player rather than to the space around them?
Yeah, you got to play the ball in front to the space that they're trying to attack.
Press working really well for Calder in this instance. Hyder trying to win the ball from the ground. Hyson pushing forward. Reid just pushing it out of the box. But Calder have started this second half with some very frantic, high-pressure energy. They're really trying to keep that ball as close to their goal as possible. Papatsanis. And Smith. And
So Smith playing in that defensive midfielder's role. She's doing a great deal of work in terms of winning the ball. She's in charge of marking Klajic as much as possible, but she seems to be winning that possession and trying to get the ball forward to the attackers.
Westland had a hold of the ball for quite some time. Iamano. And a lot of Calder players very close onto their opposition, especially if that player has the ball tonight.
Yeah, I think what we were talking about before in terms of Calder, they need to look at receiving feet and finding that balance between some players running forward and making forward runs and somebody holding it up in order to link players in. So, Doralis always looking over the top, Hayder always looking over the top, Grober always looking over the top, so that when the midfielders do have it, if South Melbourne drop off with ease, they can't beat anybody.
Hayder with the ball, Papasanis giving chase, and Matthews there to back her up, but keeps the ball in play. Just flashes past Smith and past the feet of Mitchell and through just quite a few players as well. Then Calder retain possession through Dakic at the back. Sewards.
Better by Doralis, dropping into the midfield, picking up possession and then linking up with midfielders. They're able to drag the South Melbourne players in and expose them in behind a little bit easier.
Smith. Not sure if that was a cross or a shot or just trying to get foot to ball.
I think it's good that Smith is just elevating herself a little bit higher up the park. I think earlier in the first half she was seen to be all the way in the defence sometimes, and when you're trying to press up high, you really need that midfielder to be able to jump and help out in that press.
Spoke a little bit about in the first half the almost 5 players really in the back for Calder. Sandu spots Lawson. That ball finds Lawson, and that aerial height mismatch against Matthews, and she does go sliding in from behind. Papasanis pushing forward now. Again, Lawson just doing great work to elude any players tasked with marking her. Westland to the feet of Papasanis, but not really able to move the ball far. Doralis now chooses to go back. South Melbourne now applying that press through Wise, and looks like the ball will end up in the back, behind the neck, but Wise just with, and some changes as well with Iamano coming off and Taylor Christensen coming on, the New Zealand player. Also, another change, we'll see Letitia McKenna come off and Caitlin Pickett come on. So, 2 attacking changes for South Melbourne.
Doesn't look good for Letitia McKenna. She does look like she's limping. And, of course, when we noticed Franny Iamano come on in that first half, she did look ginger, but she certainly played out the rest of the half looking a little bit ginger on that ankle, but she managed to push out into the second half. But Georgiadis has gone to his bench early in this second half to try and get more vigour in players. Caitlin Pickett has some pace. She's going to play in the midfield for Letitia McKenna, but she is usually a striker. And then Christensen is up top on that left-hand side in her normal position.
A straight swap with Iamano, but McKenna, of course, did score the winner for South Melbourne in their previous cup game, and Taylor Christensen, very influential in attack for South Melbourne, very strong creative player who can really link up, play very well. You can see her on the ball now. That pass goes into Matthews. Hayder opts to go back to Dakic, and pressure coming from Christensen. High ball from Pritchard, and the Pickett with the ball. Lawson with the cross directly into Matthews. Sewards to Doralis. Hayder with all the time and space in front of her. Papatsanis still a few metres, giving her some space, and that was a whipped-in ball towards Doralis, and Varley heads it out. So a lot of play coming from the side closest to you on screen tonight. Matthews taking her time before she gets to the ball for the throw-in. Doralis. 3 South Melbourne defenders near her, between her and another Calder player, and it will be a goal kick.
Calder have started the better of the two teams in this second half. I wonder if Georgiades felt that was because of, the injuries to McKenna. It's a big blow for South Melbourne not to have McKenna in that middle of the park. She's the one that has been creating a lot of opportunities. Clade, she's going to have to take the lion's share of the work rate now in trying to maintain possession. And Misha Westland in the midfield, she usually interchanges with McKenna to try and keep possession, but she's going to have to do all that by herself now. Caitlin Pickett, yes, she has the running, yes, she has the pace, but she's not a normal 10. She's very much an out-and-out 9. Or actually, she's probably better suited to the wing, but she'll play anywhere she's needed.
And again, bit of almost a head knock there between Doralis and Varley. Calder retained possession. Mitchell finds Grover, and just so many South Melbourne defenders anytime.
Almost took each other out in that instant. I mean, if that falls to Doralis, where South Melbourne take both of them out, she might come away with it, but just fortune favoured South Melbourne in that instance.
And the switch is on now. Just immediately South Melbourne had the pressure. Lawson to Wise, but strong defending from Cern there to stop that ball going, and Westland doing everything she can to keep it in play. Comes with the back of a Calder player, and Pitchak has the ball now. Matthews. Hayter and Papatsanis. Papatsanis just using her body to stay upright and win ball.
I think that's the main difference between Australian football and Japanese football, that real physical dominance. I feel like that's why, Korea Okino does so well in our NPL league, is because she has learnt that she really needs to use her body and that physicality to win possession and maintain possession. I feel some of our Japanese players in this league have got great technical skills, but that physicality, they just lack that little bit of tenacity to get it past the defender.
And now the through ball in. Hayter still has possession. And it's a goal for Calder, and the deadlock has been broken. A fantastic effort from Kiwa Hayter. Just what we're talking about, the technical abilities of the players that we have in this league, especially these Japanese players. And Hayter has opened the scoring for Calder. It is Calder United 1, South Melbourne 0 in the semi-final of the Nike Cup.
I think it's a well-deserved lead taken after they've come out of this halftime break. They had more of the energy, they had more of the possession in this second half, but we just spoke about Hayter and her ability on the ball and to have technically gifted players of the Japanese caliber here. She got away from her player. There wasn't that need for physicality. She gets the ball back into the penalty area by a teammate, and then just as she's looking for the cross, she sees Templeman starting to creep out, starting to look for the cross, and just sneaks it in. And some of us say that might have been an accident, but I know how well Japanese players take everything into account when they're going for goal, and she would have tried that. She would have sneaked that in on purpose.
And very big goal in the context of this game. 3 times Calder and South Melbourne have faced each other since 2019 in this cup. All 3 times Calder has won by a margin of 3 goals. Obviously, just the 1 goal separating the 2 sides at the moment, but a very crucial goal in the context of this game, in the context of this cup run. But, we still have 30 minutes to play in the second half, and South Melbourne, they worked their way into the first half so well, had the lion's share possession attack, but Calder, they look like they have their heads up. Doralis to Grover now. They are pushing forward still. 1 goal is not a safe margin in this game against a side that's currently second in the NPLW ladder. Pickett. Too far in front for any of her players to get it. Pitchuk has some time to spend the ball, and Wise is trying to run in.
I think we were talking about how South Melbourne, they didn't put their chances away when they had them in the first half, and you kind of start to think, you know, do we talk about the football gods, and if you don't take those chances, will it come and bite you in the butt later on? And I feel like it has a little bit here, but South Melbourne still have the quality and the calibre and the players on the pitch to get this one done, so they won't discount themselves just because that goal's gone in, but Calder, it'll boost them going forward now.
Papasanis doing well to almost step on the ball there to stop it from another Calder attack, but Smith giving chase to Lawson. And Wise just moving away from players. Matthews is a cross in. And Christensen rose, but Hyson was in front of her. Cern looking to boot it long. Westland heads it back into the box. Bounce doesn't favour Christensen, but South Melbourne still hold on, and an opportunity there. Oh. And Pitchuk again, she's low, but it's an important save there. What really could have been a certain goal. And it's a yellow card to Yana Lawson. And South Melbourne really will be ruining their chances there. And Calder again sighing a breath of relief. We have seen such fantastic chances from South Melbourne tonight, but they can't break this deadlock, Bubs.
So I wonder how many black cats have crossed Danielle Wise's path tonight, or how many mirrors has she's broken, because, you know, she's had so many gilt-edged chances. That one came off the back of her heel and slowed down so much considerably that Pitchak could get a hand onto it before it goes in. And then, of all things, Lawson gets a yellow card for going for the, through ball just trickling across. So it feels like it's in Calder's favour tonight. I must say, there's always a feeling in games, and this is the one I'm getting.
It's, we've spoken football, really, and luck can really change everything in this game. And an unfavourable bounce, a favourable bounce. You never know which way it's going to go for either side. But Calder, their heads are up. They're pressing forward. I think they're spurred on by how luck is favouring them tonight. They do look to move forward, but Templeman able to pick up the ball as it kind of dribbles towards her. But it just adds to the intensity of the occasion, doesn't it? Just this not falling South Melbourne's way, but the chances they have are exciting.
Yeah.
It does look, when they move forward, it looks threatening. Smith heads it towards Doralis. Pickett opts to go back to her keeper. Templeman to Reed. And Westland able to keep the ball at her feet for the moment despite the mounting pressure from Mitchell. Wise taps it to Klajic. And I think there was a look to go to Lawson, but Matthews does well. Varley pushing through, and Smith almost tries to push in the back, but it makes no difference to Varley. Taylor Christensen now from the edge. It's a low cross in, and Pitchuk smothers the ball. I'm always very excited to see how South Melbourne change up their attack when Christensen is on the pitch. So plenty of time for them still to go in this game. The lights on the other pitch have all been turned off, and it's quite dark here in Keilor as well. Hader from distance spots Templeman off her line. Just not enough on that ball, but that would have been absolutely cracking if she was able to pull that one off. Lawson. And a bit of a tumble from Hader. The referee waves away, and Lawson just puts the ball out, and Hader looks to be holding her eye, but now also has a cramp.
Yeah.
I'm not sure. I saw what happened.
When something happens, your body kind of shuts down almost, like if you get a surprise knock. She's obviously gone down with the head and then when she's crumbled to the ground, the calf starts to go.
2-for-1 deal that no one ever asked for.
When you tense up when something hurts and you tense up, that means the other muscles tend to go, and she's been doing a lot of running tonight, so no doubt Calder will give the ball back here to South Melbourne.
As it is done, and Varley back to Templeman. Clyde just falls down, but can see Clyde wanted to win the ball back after missing that early opportunity. Now Calder on here again. Hyder to Doralis, flashes past her, taps it onto Grover. Grover with an opportunity! And we cannot believe it. There were cheers in the crowd. We all thought that went in. Lucky against both teams tonight, potentially, Bubs.
Yeah, I think Grover just had too much time and space to think about it, and she tried to slot it into the bottom-hand corner, but she just decided to hit it a little bit too hard. But amazing work from all Calder players there. They smelt blood in the water. They knew that Varley had her head down, and they just pounced with the ambush, picked up possession. Lovely touch by Doralis, gets the ball to Grover, because she could have shot in that middle area of the 6-yard box. She wouldn't have faulted her for giving it a go, but she found a free teammate in Grover. But yes, once you take that touch and you see players rushing at you, maybe just a rush of blood to the head, along with the rush of players coming towards you.
And even, I think also from our commentary scaffolding, as I'm calling it tonight, but that angle looked like she just got it, but it really isn't favourable to us up here. But really exciting opportunities in the second half now. Both teams are hungry, both teams are desperate, and Calder definitely have their heads up after that first goal. So South Melbourne, they want to be back in this game. They are still in this game. There is plenty of time for football. There's plenty of time for a comeback. We've seen them been able to salvage points repeatedly throughout this year in multiple competitions. So what can they do here? And Matthews running onto space. Pins it back to Doralis. And Mitchell was behind her. South Melbourne now. And Hyder trying to have that physical contest against Varley. And although she doesn't win it, she does win the throw-in in the end.
Jana Lawson is absolutely everywhere. She was the one doing that recovery run to win the ball in the back line there for South Melbourne. Calder has absolutely changed up their ability to keep possession here. Instead of trying to pass the ball over the top, they're really finding feet as much as possible, playing in front of South Melbourne, making them come out of position, and then playing the ball in behind once they've done that. And that has changed the game for them. You can see Calder now keeping, it's like this half of the field has all the possession.
Oh, from Mitchell, and she hits it so sweetly, and just like that, Calder are up 2-0, and 2 goals that have just come from nothing. 2 moments of individual brilliance, and what a sweet goal there for Alexis Mitchell.
Mitchell there, the ball just bounced nicely up, and she was able to keep her body over the ball. Templeman just a little bit too far to the middle, and she found the gap from Templeman's right-hand side, but it was a sweet passage of Calder press, that one possession there. Really good for the home team to come out in this second half and dominate as they have. I mean, South Melbourne can say that they had to take 2 critical players off the park early in this second half, but it's all been Calder, and certainly their pressure and their persistence and the change of absolute confidence in this second half has been brilliant.
It certainly has, and looking back on the previous scores between these two cup runs, Calder have won all 3 ties by 3 goals. So potentially there's another goal in it. Potentially there's more goals in it if South Melbourne get on the board, if we look at what this has been historically. But that is the 3rd goal in the 3rd cup game for Mitchell. And Sandhu just taken down, so it will be a free kick to South Melbourne. Not usually, maybe a position we could see McKenna take a free kick from if she was on the pitch. So it will be interesting to see what they decide to do instead here.
Well, I think they'll go Varley here. She's known for her long-range spectacular efforts. She has scored a few, certainly I know, for, her school team. So we play
inside
against
work.
each other, yeah. We, she has the range, she has that tenacity in her shots, and she'll probably go for goal here. Normally you'd probably see a cross in, a nice little clip, but I feel like she's going to have the power behind this to try and go for goal.
2-0 is the most dangerous scoreline in football.
Misha Westland sneaking out on the side there. Maybe they'll remember what Bulleen did to them.
We were both there for that as well. So, Varley now. Will she go for goal? And she does.
Too
but
much finesse from Leah Varley there. She has the power to absolutely rip through the net, Roberto Carlos styles. Or, if she wanted to, she's got to keep her head down on those ones. But I think she went for a little bit too much finesse.
But just speaks to how much both teams are desperate to keep adding to this scoreline in this match. Doralis on the run. Varley there first. And ball just flashes behind Cern, but Dakic is there. Sewards finds Mitchell with space. And it was hit with some venom to try and find Hayson, but instead finds the advertising board behind the sideline. Hayson.
Yes.
Sewards finds Matthews. A lovely touch there to retain possession. Still has time and space. Lays it in for Smith, and Varley comes streaming through. Wins a free kick against Smith there. Reed. Back to Varley. Pickett. Westland. And the ball is travelling about airily at the moment. Sewards. Finds Grover. Mitchell taps it on, and there's an opportunity for Doralis here. Reed stays down and shouts for an offside, but the flag stays down. Sandu to Reed. Now Grover. Westland just having that physical contest out on the pitch. And Smith pressing forward is rewarded for her efforts. Papatsanis pushes her towards the sideline, and Hayder. Varley is down out of screen, and can see that Dakic has her arms up high, and Danielle Wise is not impressed with that close attention being paid to her. Yells for a switch here. Varley almost lets out a deep side, and opts instead to go to Papatsanis. Calm and patient play from the back from South Melbourne. Kleitch. And Sewards wins the ball. Doralis. It's a good ball into space. She has time to run onto it. Hunter is there, and she goes for the back heel, but not enough on it. Retains possession for Calder. Matthews. There's Smith by herself. Doralis again. Calder. Scooped ball and just tapped on there by Varley. Hyder pins it back, and Mitchell was there running in, but unable to make contact. And maybe South Melbourne can breathe a small sigh of relief from what Calder was bringing forward, but Pickett loses possession, and here come Calder yet again. Hyder to Mitchell, but Reed just boots it long.
Just holding on to the ball that little bit longer for Kewa Hayter means that her teammates are allowed to get in behind, drag defenders out. And once a player steps to Hayter, she's got that opening for Mitchell in behind. So really smart work from Calder in terms of changing up their play, their style of play from the first half to the second half. Now they're starting to slow the game down, a bit of game management here. They're 2-0 up. It is a dangerous scoreline, but the way they've been playing tonight, they feel like they've got a third ready up their sleeve.
Christensen. Calder trying to throw everything to disrupt her movement. Cern just boots it through the middle. Hayata. I think Christensen again still. And Christensen concedes the foul. Grover saying that should have been a yellow. You can hear her.
Yeah, we can hear everyone saying that it should have been a yellow. It was a bit of a professional foul, but South Melbourne had numbers behind the ball. It wasn't a critical tackle to slow down the possession, and I really feel like Calder don't mind it at all, to be fair.
Cern. Lovely delivery, but no one really there. Templeman just palms it forward and into the path of Smith, who kind of finds Grover, but it's not a dangerous play at all there from Calder. It was a real opportunity.
Yeah, I think Templeman went for the punch, but she could have caught it sweetly on her chest and diffused the play. But she's opted to punch, and Smith, if she had just got a side foot onto it, she could have clipped it back into the goal.
Ball over the top, and Christensen running into it. Players streaming forward. So high ball delivery in, and Lawson's by herself right on the edge of the box. Decides not to hit it first time. Still goes again, and Pitchock. Impressive all evening, and impressive again. Stands up tall for the save. South Melbourne throwing everything they can at her this evening, but she just stands tall each time.
Yeah, we can't discount South Melbourne. They certainly have come back from this position before. We remember them against Heidelberg. They were 2-0 down against them out at Oakley, and they certainly came back. They had a whole half to do it in, but certainly they've got the caliber. And Jana Lawson actually bagged a brace that night, and they won it 3-2. So they have everything in their power to do it tonight as well.
And Cern just trying to read that balance well, and she'll nutmegs Lawson in the process. Kleitch went down back of play a little bit ago, but seems to be upright and moving again, trying to mark Doralis, who's able to break through, and there is Haida trying to tussle with Varley, but back and forth play. The press now are being a little bit more effective for Calder in this second half than what we saw in the first. But
it's almost as if South Melbourne are getting in their own way. They're trying to clean up possession. They're trying to get it. They're trying to clear it all with a bouncing ball. It's very difficult for players to be retreating and covering as they make a sub.
And I think the substitution's the wrong way around, because that's Larissa Walsh, number 11, and Ava Grover's on the pitch. So I think there's a bit of a miscommunication there.
So Grover is on.
Off.
And
Walsh is on.
And Walsh is on.
Larissa Walsh is their leading goal scorer. Well, it's now equal leading goal scorer in this competition. She scored 3 goals in 3 games. She's scored the first goal in against Clifton Hill and against Heidelberg. So been very influential in attack in the cup, and bit of a tough hit there. No one wants to experience that. But makes no difference to Kiwa Haida, who still manages to run forward, and Calder are pressing. They are pressurizing for more, if that's even a word. So
it is now.
It is now. We're making up words here on a Wednesday evening at Keilor Park Recreation Reserve. Anything is possible. It is the magic of the cup. Cern. Christensen heads it back towards South Melbourne Way. Montano and Matthews really showing some patience, waiting for the ball to come to her. And
game management from Pitchak, very smart, recognising that it came off a South Melbourne defender, that she can pick it up.
Roughly 10 or so minutes to go in this game. Mitchell. Westland. Lawson there. Lawson's been everywhere tonight for South Melbourne. Little back heel, Clyde hits it away from goal. But again, Sandhu just shepherds it over the line. Christensen just this time's their feet a little bit slow to get up, but seems to all be fine.
What can South Melbourne do in this last 10 minutes that can bring the game back to parity and win it for them? It seems hard to do with what they've been displaying lately. Calder have been absolutely applying the pressure. It's all Calder's to lose, I feel.
You know, Danielle Wise, she scored that 93rd minute equaliser in the weekend, but Calder, this is their cup. They've won 5 consecutive. This is their territory. We're at their home ground. So really, the balance is all in their favour, but so many things just not favouring South Melbourne tonight. But really, what has been favouring Calder the most of all is the excellent goalkeeping we've seen from Pitchak.
Yeah, that certainly kept them in the game. You know, they say how much goalkeepers can't score goals, but when your goalkeeper keeps you in the game for that long, it's as good as scoring, because once your team does get on the board, they've done it with a clean sheet. So really huge credit to Pitchak here.
Any goalkeeper bias about that statement from you?
Not at all. Not at all. Just countless times I've been told that goalkeepers can't score. Well, that's exactly like scoring a goal.
What is the old sports saying? You know, defence wins championships.
That's
and
right.
Isn't, you know, your goalkeeper your best line?
Clean sheets. Yeah. Clean sheets win your championships.
And another substitution. So, Clyde coming off for South Melbourne and Betty Michael coming on. So, Clyde, more or less both an attacking change for both teams here. And another substitution with Sophie Papatsanis coming off and Georgia Candelas coming on for South Melbourne. So
Candelas is a striker, and she'll be probably adding to the potency up front, trying to get as many players forward. He might go 4 up top. He might play 3 at the back. He's going to try and throw numbers. Georgiadis is a former striker, so no doubt we'll try and do everything in the playbook.
And why not? This is do or die. This is a cup match, and it's all ends on that whistle. So South Melbourne will try and push forward as much as they can, and Kiwa had a thumping ball in, but goes directly to Reed. Pickett to Lawson. There is the run there by Michael. Down that flank. Pushing up now. Lots of numbers streaming forward for South Melbourne. It will be a throw in there. Right near the corner flag. Lawson. Shouts for a foul throw from Matthews. And Varley crosses it in, hits the back of Wise, and still the ball is still alive. Wise passes back to Lawson, cleared by Dakic, and a sigh of relief from Calder. Varley, a long way up. You can see how cold it is here in Keilor. The fog's starting to roll in. And Varley was keen to get the ball moving, but unintentionally hit Called a player in the process. Had some giggles from the crowd. Matthews. Doralis versus Varley. Still pressing forward. Varley goes through the centre. Finds Hundis. And smart defending there from Dakic to push it out for the throw-in rather than let South Melbourne get a corner. Lawson. And it will be a corner. That's the first corner we've had in quite some time. The first for South Melbourne in this second half, really deep into the last 10 or so minutes. Sandu. Take the corner. Everyone is up but Marina Templeman. Kick in, and it's a header from Varley. But so many players in the box. South Melbourne unable to break free. Lawson still keen to keep moving forward. And now all the numbers are in this half, and the ball from Mitchell goes directly back to Michael. Sandu, the captain, moving forward. Here comes Westland. She hits it. But it goes straight. Doesn't curl back in at all for her. So it will be a goal kick now for Calder.
Yeah, unfortunately for South Melbourne, the great header by Varley ricocheted off Reed, blocking her own goal. Maybe if she had maybe been able to see it onto the thigh, maybe get a ricochet into the goal, but she's completely blocked it, and Dakic was able to clear.
Hyder back to Matthews. And comes the turn and the movement here. Look at all the South Melbourne players between her and goal. Ball won back by South Melbourne. Christensen now on the ball. Wise from distance. And it's the safe hands of Natalie Pitchuk. We'll see Daniel Wise continue her lack of goal scoring in the cup this season. Pickett moving forward.
Hyson just going down with cramp there. She's been all over the park for Calder, getting back, doing whatever she can to keep this clean sheet intact. But in that tackle, you could see just her muscles failing her. She made the tackle. She still got it out in the end, but she might struggle to finish this one off. Calder might need to go to the bench.
Just see the players still kind of warming up on the sideline there.
Calder have a lot more options to go to on the bench. I mean, South Melbourne have pretty much exited everyone from their bench, but Calder still have 4 substitutes to warm up. They'll see how Hyson goes here. Although she might just need a little bit of a pickle juice, but if they don't have anything in store, then she's going to have to make a change. But having somebody playing so well and having to go out in these dying minutes, yeah, it might be a straight swap, but it's, you know, you don't want to make this as a coach. You want that player to continue on as much as possible.
Been very impressive here and headed on from Christensen, but again, just not enough on that ball and doesn't trouble.
She must have a ball magnet in her chest. No, I mean, she's a great goalkeeper. She's doing great. But, you know, sometimes you just feel like the ball just wants to come to you at every chance. It's just one of those games for Pitchak tonight.
Investigation after the game to her gloves where the magnets are hiding. But, you know, no medal in this game. But Danielle Wise opts to not go for a shot. Passes back to Pickett. And Varley to Westland. There's Michael all by herself. And Mitchell, the goal scorer, does well to keep it out of harm's way for the moment. Lots of frantic play here. South Melbourne moving forward again and again. And Westland goes low. And how on earth has Pitchuk kept that one out? curse tonight, or Calder have just done absolutely everything right.
That is insane. Pitchak has been able to get a hand to that as it skimmed off the boot, and it has had that wicked twist on it. And she was still able to punch it away. And even the follow-up shot doesn't get the better of Pitchak in goal.
Without a doubt, that's who I'd be naming player of this match. No medal in this game tonight. Medals in the final, but
yeah,
just impressive has been, a good game from so many of these players, but just in the importance of what Pitchak has been able to do tonight and keep the scoreline the way it is for Calder.
What a ball by Reed, by the way.
We have to go back to it.
We have to go back to the ball by Reed and Westland being able to cut it back to, Danielle Wise and get it into that position. It was beautiful to watch. But, the ability of Pitchak to keep everything out tonight just overshadowed everything in that passage of play.
Just as we're talking about all of that, there was that substitution that was made, and May Hasten has come off, and Minami Yamasaki has come on. So for the final couple of minutes of this game, there has been that substitution for Calder.
She'll be in charge of keeping Candilas at bay. Candilas has a lot of pace. She actually scored against the Heidelberg in that game as well. That got them back on level terms.
Pickett. Unfavourable bounce by Stern, but again.
That's the ones that do go in. The one that ricochet off your own player. It's great that Pitchak could hold on to that one as well.
And, of course, Western Core here tonight supporting Calder, and they're starting a chant right next to us here in the commentary scaffolding, trying to will their team in the final few minutes of this game if South Melbourne can't put anything else forward. And it will be a corner now. Everyone's streaming forward except for Templeman. Beautiful delivery. Headed by Matthews. Still a scramble in the box. And still the ball is live, and goal kick now for Calder.
That's when you know it's in your favour, because Cern went to clear that and she missed, and it went out for a goal kick. So, I'm laughing because it's crazy how football works.
What do you think happened? How many broken mirrors, how many black hats? On the opposite end, was there like a prayer circle, some candles being lit, the luck has so deeply been in the favour of Calder tonight. We spoke about in the first half as well about the efforts being made, but bounce is...
But the luck is made when you play well, right?
Absolutely.
So we can't discredit the performances.
No.
Yes.
But they're the 12th player tonight.
Yeah, they have a 12th player. But also...
And that is the final whistle. Calder United make their way into the final of the Nike FC Cup. They have won the last 5. They are looking to make it 6. And it is Calder United 2, South Melbourne, with everything they threw at the goal at Natalie Pitchak, 0.
Absolutely crazy scenes here at Keilor Park. Calder girls have brought it home, in their backyard. Unfortunately for South Melbourne, they couldn't capitalise on the dominating performance of that first 45 minutes. They went into the sheds 0-0, and Calder had something to say to each other. They got themselves up, they got that energy going, and they came out a different side in that second half and absolutely dominated in all aspects of the game. I think it was really surprising that South Melbourne had to take 2 players off very early into that second half, but nothing to discredit the performances of Calder, especially Pitchak in goal. She kept the clean sheet for the entire time with the 4 in front of her, plus the fact that you give Kewa Haydar 5 centimetres of room to score one, and she'll find it. Then the absolute magnificent finish of Mitchell to seal it off, the volley, and then the saves from Pitchak at the end to keep it at a clean sheet is absolutely brilliant, and that's what the Nike Cup is all about.
Absolutely. And of course, these two sides will be facing each other in the NPLW in a couple of weeks as well. So it'll be interesting to see, and right here in this ground as well on the 29th of July. But none of that matters tonight. What matters is the fact that Calder have made their way through again for another stunning cup run. They have an opportunity now for a 6th consecutive Nike FC Cup. South Melbourne, you could see the effort being placed. You could see the pressure, the press, the opportunities that they had. Nothing could break through that defence. But it's been fantastic if you've been joining us here tonight on Football Victoria Facebook Live or on NPL TV. Plenty more football to come in coming weeks. Make sure you are joining. And of course, there is a game tomorrow night in the cup with Bulleen taking on VPL side Casey Comments at Salandra Recreation Reserve. That will be live from 7:30 on Facebook Live and NPL TV as well. Thank you so much for joining us here on the broadcast. Keep watching and enjoying your football.